Hi there, renovators. So, some of you have asked me, and these are what I want. So you guys to send me in some questions and I'll answer them for you if you're interested in what I have to say. Somebody has asked me recently, what are the 3 most important things that you look for when you're flipping a house? That's it can be a very broad question. I could probably speak all day about all those particular 3 things because there's a lot more than 3 things, but I would say the first most important thing is know your market. Know your market means know your numbers. So in other words, if you're buying a house for say $500,000 or an apartment or some sort of property transaction for say $500,000, you need to know whether or not that's good value for what you're buying. In other words, what are the square meterage rates of other similar type properties in that area, and are you overpaying for something similar or are you underpaying for something similar? Because only when you know your market will you actually know whether or not you're getting value for your money from when you buy. And when you buy tends to be most of the time when you actually make your money. A lot of very smart people, they always say you make your money when you buy, not when you sell. Even though that's actually when the money comes home to you and you get it in your bank account is when you sell, you actually make it somehow when you buy. The second most important thing that you need to know, I believe, when you're looking to buy a property to flip, obviously number 1 being knowing your market. Number 2 is knowing your end result. Okay, so again, it comes back to knowing your numbers. So when you basically know your market, you know what you're buying, you should also be knowing what you're going to do to it and what sort of result you're going to get in regard to the end value. So if you buy, say, something for $500,000, you should know that if you add $100,000 worth of value, that you might be able to sell it for $750,000 worth of value. Not, I might buy it for $500,000, I might spend $100,000, which will probably turn into $200,000 because I'll put a pink elephant ornament in the backyard that I think my mother-in-law might like. Okay, that's not really what we're going for here. We're sort of going for something a little bit more clinical, a little more focused, a little bit more precise in regard to where am I going and what am I looking to achieve. So the second most important thing that I feel, apart from knowing your market, which is the first, is know what your end result is going to be and what you're going to do to achieve it. In other words, the value that you're going to add versus the result you're going to achieve, and that's how you know you're going to be on the right path. The third most important factor when looking to flip or renovate a property, I would say, is get the right trades. If you are in the business with the wrong trades, this is probably the one most thing that can kill your project profits more than anything else. 9 times out of 10, a lot of these guys will get it right. They'll actually do the works, but it's the time frame or it's the variation. So in other words, if somebody says, well, I'm going to build your kitchen and do your bathrooms for $50,000, but then halfway through the job, something happens in regard to the pricing not being right on the tiles, or something being an issue in regard to labour, or even pricing for the stone, for instance, on your bench tops. And all of a sudden the builder turns around and says, well, we've got a discrepancy here versus what we agreed to versus what we have. We need to vary the contract. Or something else might happen. The project might get delayed. It could be weather. It could be sickness. You know, at the end of the day, tradespeople are just like us. You know, we all have lives and we all have issues in our lives and various things pop up. And reliability is the key, because the one thing that kills profitability in any project is time. It's usually the cost of money. Okay, so the most important thing that you can do after you've got your market right, after you know your end result, you've got to execute professionally and precisely to make sure you can lock in those profits within a given amount of time, without disputes, without issues in regards to who did what, who started what, who should be turning up and who should be paid what. You've got to get the right trades. So to wrap things up, the top most three important things that you need to consider when you're renovating or flipping, or really renovating to flip. Number one, know your market. Number two, know your result. Number three, get the right trades to execute. They are the three most important things. Now, obviously I could go on all day. You know, you've got to get the right agent to sell your property at the end. You've obviously got to come up with the right strategy at the start. There's a whole bunch of other things that we could talk about and I can go into later detail about, but to answer that quick question, somebody asking me what are the top three things in regard to flipping a house and selling it and getting the best price for what you're doing, and they are the three key things. Know your market, know your result, get the right trades. Thanks guys.